I was arranging folding chairs in the back row of Ashley's art gallery opening when my mother's voice sliced through the gentle murmur of wine glasses and polite conversation. "Jessica, stop hovering around the guests. You're not part of the show tonight." Her manicured hand waved dismissively toward the storage room. "Your sister deserves to shine without distractions. Go make yourself useful in the back." Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The gallery fell into one of those uncomfortable silences where everyone pretends they didn't hear what just happened, but their sideways glances tell a different story. Ashley, radiant in a flowing emerald dress that cost more than my monthly rent, didn't even look up from the art critic she was charming. She was used to this. We both were. But something snapped inside me that night. Not with a dramatic crack, but with the quiet finality of a door closing. I'd spent 26 years being the supportive older sister, the one who worked 3 jobs to put herself through college while Ashley got her art degree fully funded. I'd listened to countless dinner conversations about Ashley's promising future, while my own accomplishments were brushed aside with phrases like, "That's nice, dear," and "maybe you should focus on finding a husband instead." That moment in the gallery wasn't just another casual dismissal. It was the final proof that in my parents' eyes, I would always be the background character in Ashley's starring role. But they had no idea what I had been building in the shadows while they poured all their attention and resources into their golden child. I decided right then that I'd make them see me not as the invisible daughter who arranged chairs and stayed out of the way, but as someone they'd have to acknowledge, respect, and maybe even ask for help. I was going to flip their entire world upside down, and Ashley's next gallery opening would tell a very different story. My name is Jessica Thompson, and at 29, I've learned that sometimes the people who should believe in you the most are the ones who can't see past their own expectations. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've ever been told your dreams don't matter as much as someone else's, this story is for you. It's about proving wrong the people who should have been cheering you on from the beginning. Growing up in Springfield, Ohio, I spent most of my childhood watching my parents pour their love and money into my younger sister Ashley like she was some kind of precious investment that would pay off in prestige and bragging rights. Our house on Maple Street looked picture perfect from the outside: white picket fence, manicured lawn, 2-car garage. But inside, there was an invisible scoreboard where Ashley was always winning a game I didn't even know we were playing. Mom, Linda, worked as a real estate agent and had this way of presenting everything like she was staging a house for potential buyers. Every family dinner was a performance. Every school event was an opportunity to network, and every conversation somehow circled back to how Ashley was artistically gifted and needed extra support to nurture her creativity. Dad, Bob, managed an insurance office downtown and believed in traditional values, which apparently meant that Ashley's artistic pursuits were more worthy of investment than my practical academic achievements. The favoritism started early, but I was too young to recognize the pattern. When Ashley was 7 and I was 10, she announced she wanted to take ballet lessons. Within a week, Mom had enrolled her in the most expensive dance studio in town, complete with private lessons and custom costumes. When I asked if I could try soccer that same year, Dad suggested I join the free community league instead of the competitive team that required fees and equipment. "Soccer is just for fun," he said, not looking up from his newspaper, "but Ashley has real talent. We need to invest in her future." I learned to accept these explanations without question. Ashley needed art supplies, so I got generic school supplies. Ashley needed a quiet space to create, so I did my homework in the kitchen while she took over the spare bedroom as her studio. Ashley needed emotional support before her dance recitals, so my own school presentations and science fair projects became afterthoughts that nobody attended. By middle school, the pattern was so established that I stopped expecting anything different. When Ashley decided she wanted to learn violin, Mom immediately hired a private instructor and rented a professional quality instrument. When I showed interest in joining the debate team, which would have cost $50 for tournament fees, Dad suggested I focus on my grades instead, since arguing isn't very ladylike. The most painful part wasn't the financial disparity, though that stung. It was the way my parents lit up when they talked about Ashley's potential while treating my accomplishments like consolation prizes. When I made honor roll 3 semesters in a row, Mom would nod absently and say, "That's wonderful, honey," before immediately shifting the conversation to Ashley's latest art piece or dance performance. "Your sister has such a creative spirit," Mom would tell relatives at family gatherings. "She's going to be famous someday." Jessica's more practical. She'll find something stable, I'm sure. The subtext was clear. Ashley was destined for greatness, while I was expected to be grateful for mediocrity. Ashley was the dreamer who deserved support and encouragement, while I was supposed to be sensible and self-sufficient. Even our extended family picked up on these cues, asking Ashley about her art projects while asking me about my grades, as if my worth could only be measured in how well I performed the role of the responsible older daughter. High school made everything worse because suddenly Ashley's activities required even more money and attention. She joined the drama club, which meant expensive costumes and acting workshops. She started painting seriously, which meant premium art supplies and weekend trips to galleries in Columbus and Cincinnati. She decided she wanted to apply to art schools, which meant portfolio preparation classes and private college counselors. Meanwhile, I worked 20 hours a week at the campus bookstore during my junior and senior years, not because my family needed the money, but because I knew I'd have to fund my own college experience. While Ashley was attending summer art camps in Chicago and New York, I was stocking shelves and learning to balance a register, saving every dollar I could for application fees and textbooks. The college application process revealed just how deep the favoritism ran. Mom spent months researching art schools with Ashley, flying with her to campus visits and meeting with admissions counselors. They toured studios, attended portfolio reviews, and even hired a consultant to help Ashley craft the perfect application essays. When Ashley got accepted to the Cleveland Institute of Art with a partial scholarship, the celebration lasted for weeks. I applied to Ohio State University on my own, using fee waivers and completing every form without help. When I got accepted with a merit scholarship that covered 60% of my tuition, Dad patted me on the shoulder and said, "Good for you, Jess. At least one of us is practical." The summer before college, Ashley spent her time preparing for art school, shopping for supplies and attending pre-freshman workshops that Mom eagerly paid for. I worked full-time at a local catering company, serving at weddings and corporate events, trying to save enough money to cover my remaining tuition and living expenses. When I mentioned how tired I was from working 60-hour weeks, Mom suggested I should be grateful for the work ethic I was developing. "Ashley needs the summer to focus on her art," Mom explained when I asked why I couldn't get help with college expenses like Ashley did. "You're stronger than she is. You can handle taking care of yourself." Starting college felt like escaping to a different planet, where my efforts actually mattered and people noticed when I worked hard. Ohio State was huge and impersonal, but for the first time in my life, I was judged on my own merits rather than compared to Ashley's artistic promise. My business classes challenged me in ways that felt energizing rather than discouraging, and my professor seemed genuinely interested in my ideas about marketing and entrepreneurship. I lived in the cheapest dorm available and worked multiple jobs to cover expenses my scholarship didn't handle. I stocked shelves at the campus bookstore between classes, tutored struggling students in the evenings, and spent weekends
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
Catering events around Columbus. While other students were joining sororities and attending parties, I was building a work ethic that would serve me better than any social connections. My roommate, Emma Rodriguez, came from a family where all 3 daughters were treated equally, and she couldn't understand why I worked so hard when my parents clearly had money to help me. She'd watch me leave for my 3rd job of the week while she video chatted with her parents, who asked detailed questions about all her classes and celebrated every small victory. "Why don't your parents help you like they help Ashley?" Emma asked one night when I came back exhausted from a catering gig that ran until midnight. I didn't have a good answer because I'd never really questioned it before. It was just how our family worked. Ashley was the special one who needed support and investment, while I was expected to figure things out on my own. But hearing Emma's confusion made me realize how abnormal our dynamic actually was. During my sophomore year, I started a small business helping local restaurants improve their social media presence. It began as a way to make extra money, but I discovered I had a real talent for understanding what made small businesses successful and what obstacles prevented them from reaching customers. I was earning enough to cover all my expenses and even started saving money for the first time in my life. When I told my parents about my business during winter break, Dad seemed mildly impressed, but immediately shifted the conversation to Ashley's latest painting series. Mom asked a few polite questions, but spent most of dinner describing Ashley's upcoming senior art exhibition and how expensive the framing and printing would be. "We're so proud of Ashley's artistic vision," Mom said, passing around photos of Ashley's latest work on her phone. "She's really found her voice as an artist. The gallery owner in Cleveland says she has commercial potential." And when I mentioned that my social media business was generating $2,000 a month and I was being approached by restaurants in other cities, Dad nodded absently and said, "That's a nice little side hustle, Jess. Maybe you can do that part-time after you graduate and find a real job." The dismissal stung, but it also fueled something inside me. I started working even harder on my business, staying up late to research digital marketing trends and reaching out to potential clients across the Midwest. By my junior year, I was managing social media accounts for 15 different businesses and had to hire 2 other students to help with content creation. Ashley, meanwhile, was struggling with the practical aspects of being an art student. She called home constantly, stressed about critiques and overwhelmed by the business side of art. Mom and Dad regularly sent care packages filled with expensive art supplies and gift cards for groceries and clothes. When Ashley needed money for a spring break trip to Europe for artistic inspiration, they didn't hesitate to wire her $1,500. During family dinners when I was home, the conversation revolved entirely around Ashley's challenges and triumphs at art school. Her professor's feedback was analyzed in detail, her grades were celebrated, and her social life was discussed with a kind of invested interest that made me realize I'd never experienced anything similar. When I mentioned that I was considering expanding my business into a full-service digital marketing agency, Mom worried that I was taking on too much and should focus on my grades instead. When Ashley talked about maybe switching majors because art was too stressful, both parents immediately reassured her that they'd support whatever decision she made and help her explore other creative options. The double standard became impossible to ignore. Ashley's struggles were problems that required family meetings and financial solutions. My challenges were character-building experiences that I should handle independently. Ashley's successes were family victories that everyone celebrated together. My achievements were nice surprises that earned brief acknowledgement before the conversation moved on to more important topics. By my senior year, I had expanded my business to work with 43 different clients across Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. I was earning enough money to live comfortably and had even started investing in stocks and saving for post-graduation plans. I met Maya Chen, a marketing major who became both my business partner and the first friend who truly understood my entrepreneurial ambitions. Maya came from a family of small business owners and immediately saw the potential in what I was building. She had ideas for scaling the business and connections that could help us reach bigger clients. Together, we started developing a more comprehensive platform that would help small businesses not just with social media, but with customer relationship management, local advertising, and online sales integration. When I tried to share my excitement about these developments with my family, their responses felt like polite tolerance rather than genuine interest. Mom would smile and nod, but her questions were surface level, and she'd quickly changed the subject to Ashley's post-graduation plans. Dad seemed to view my business success as a phase I'd outgrow once I found a real career path. Meanwhile, Ashley was preparing for her senior exhibition with the kind of family support I could only dream of. Mom took 2 weeks off work to help Ashley plan the event, design invitations, and coordinate with gallery owners. Dad researched professional photographers and videographers to document Ashley's big night. They rented a hotel suite for out-of-town relatives who wanted to attend. And Mom spent hundreds of dollars on a cocktail dress for Ashley to wear to her own opening. The exhibition was treated like the most important event in our family's history. Relatives flew in from 3 different states, Mom hired a professional photographer, and Dad gave a speech about Ashley's artistic journey that brought several people to tears. Ashley's paintings sold moderately well, earning her about $3,000, which my parents celebrated as proof of her commercial viability as an artist. I attended the exhibition, of course, and genuinely tried to be supportive. Ashley's work was technically skilled and emotionally expressive, though I privately wondered how sustainable a career in fine art would be without continued family support. But I kept those thoughts to myself and focused on celebrating Ashley's achievement, just as I'd been trained to do my entire life. What hurt most wasn't Ashley's success, but the realization that my own business accomplishments, which were generating six figures annually and providing employment for other students, were still viewed as less significant than Ashley's artistic pursuits. When relatives asked about my plans after graduation, Mom would explain that I had a little marketing business and was very responsible. But the pride and excitement she showed when discussing Ashley's artistic future was completely absent from her descriptions of my achievements. After graduation, Ashley moved back home to Springfield to establish herself as a local artist while she applied to graduate programs. Mom and Dad converted the basement into a proper art studio, spending $8,000 on lighting, ventilation, and storage systems. They covered Ashley's living expenses and provided a monthly allowance so she could focus on her art without worrying about mundane concerns like rent or groceries. I moved to Cincinnati and got a job at a traditional marketing firm while continuing to grow my own business on the side. Within 6 months, my side business was generating more income than my salary, but I was afraid to make the leap to full-time entrepreneurship without the security of a steady paycheck. Maya had graduated and moved to Columbus, where she was working for a tech startup while we continued collaborating on our platform development remotely. The contrast between Ashley's and my post-college experiences was stark. Ashley had complete family support to pursue her dreams without financial pressure, while I was grinding through 60-hour weeks, splitting my time between a day job I didn't love and a business that was growing faster than I could manage alone. During family dinners, Ashley would share updates about gallery submissions and art fair applications, while Mom and Dad offered advice and encouragement. When I mentioned that I was considering leaving my corporate job to focus on my business full-time, Dad immediately cautioned me against giving up the security of a steady salary. Ashley's situation is different, Dad explained. Art requires time to develop without commercial pressure. But marketing is a competitive field. You need to build your resume at established companies before you go out on your own. The implication was clear. Ashley deserves support to pursue her passion, while I needed to be practical and risk-averse. Ashley's dreams were investments in her artistic vision, while my entrepreneurial ambitions were risky gambles that needed to be tempered with conventional wisdom. But I was tired of being practical while Ashley got to be passionate. I was tired of working twice as hard for half the recognition. Most of all, I was tired of feeling invisible in my own family while Ashley remained the center of attention and resources. The breaking point was coming, though I didn't recognize it yet. All those years of feeling overlooked and undervalued were building towards a moment that would change everything, not just for me, but for the entire dynamic that had defined our family for as long as I could remember. The moment I walked out of Ashley's gallery opening that night, I didn't drive straight home to my Cincinnati apartment like I usually did after family events. Instead, I sat in my car in the gallery parking lot, watching through the windows as my parents continued to beam with pride at their golden child while she charmed potential buyers and art collectors. The contrast between how they treated her achievements and mine had never been more obvious, and something fundamental shifted inside me that night. I pulled out my phone and called Maya, even though it was nearly 10 o'clock and I knew she was probably getting ready for bed. She answered on the second ring, probably recognizing the urgency in my voice from the way I'd texted her earlier about the gallery opening. "How bad was it?" Maya asked without preamble. She'd heard enough stories about my family dynamics over the past few years to know that these events rarely went well for me. They introduced me to people as Ashley's helpful older sister,
I said, my voice steadier than I felt. When someone asked what I did for work, Mom actually said I had a little computer hobby, but that Ashley was the real entrepreneur in the family because she was building her brand as an artist. Maya was quiet for a moment, and I could hear her moving around her apartment, probably settling into her chair with a cup of tea, like she always did when we had serious conversations. Jess, you generated $87,000 in revenue last quarter alone. You have 43 active clients across 3 states. You're employing 6 people as freelancers and contractors. That's not a hobby. That's a legitimate business that's growing faster than most startups I see here in Columbus. I know that, I said, watching Ashley through the gallery window as she laughed at some older gentleman in an expensive suit was telling her. But they'll never see it that way. To them, I'm just the practical daughter who'll always be in the background, arranging chairs and staying out of the way while Ashley shines. So what are you going to do about it? The question hung in the air between us, and I realized that for the first time in my life, I actually had options. I wasn't the broke college student working 3 jobs anymore. I wasn't the recent graduate afraid to take risks without a safety net. I had built something real, something valuable, something that could grow into exactly the kind of success that would be impossible for my parents to dismiss or minimize. I'm going to prove them wrong, I said, surprising myself with the certainty in my voice. Not just prove them wrong, but make them realize that they bet on the wrong daughter. Make them see that while they were pouring all their attention and resources into Ashley's artistic dreams, I was building something that could actually change people's lives and create real wealth. Maya was quiet for another moment, but I could practically hear the wheels turning in her head. She understood ambition in a way that my family never had, coming from a background where business success was celebrated and entrepreneurship was seen as a legitimate path to prosperity. "What did you have in mind?" she asked, and I could hear the excitement creeping into her voice. "Remember that platform we've been talking about? The one that goes beyond social media management and actually helps small businesses compete with the big chains? What if we stopped talking about it and actually built it?" "Connect local," Maya said immediately. We'd been refining the concept for months, designing a comprehensive system that would help local businesses not just with their online presence, but with customer retention, targeted advertising, inventory management, and community engagement. It was ambitious, potentially revolutionary, and exactly the kind of project that could establish us as serious players in the tech industry. "Connect local," I repeated, and saying the name out loud made it feel more real, more possible. I want to build something so successful that the next time we're all in a room together, they'll be asking me for business advice instead of treating me like the family afterthought. We talked for another hour, outlining the steps we'd need to take to make Connect Local a reality. Maya had connections in the Columbus tech scene, including potential investors and developers who could help us build the platform. I had the practical business relationships and experience working with small businesses across the Midwest. Together, we had the foundation for something that could be genuinely transformative. The next morning, I called in sick to my marketing job and drove to Columbus to meet Maya in person. We spent the day in a coffee shop near Ohio State's campus, laptops open, sketching out business plans, and mapping out the features that would set Connect Local apart from existing platforms. "The key is integration," Maya explained, her fingers flying across her keyboard as she pulled up examples of successful tech platforms. Most small businesses are using 5 or 6 different systems that don't talk to each other. They have one platform for social media, another for customer emails, something else for inventory, and a separate system for processing payments. What if we could do all of that in one place? I nodded, thinking about the conversations I'd had with restaurant owners and retail shop managers over the past 2 years. They were all struggling with the same problems, spending 10 to 15 hours a week managing various online platforms, often with minimal results because they didn't have the expertise to use the tools effectively. "I know I need to be on social media," a restaurant owner told me during a phone interview, but I don't know what to post, when to post it, or how to get people to actually come to my restaurant instead of just liking my photos. And don't get me started on trying to figure out online advertising. I spent $200 on Facebook ads last month and got maybe 3 new customers. These conversations confirmed what Maya and I suspected. There was a real market need for what we wanted to build. Small business owners weren't looking for complicated marketing strategies or cutting-edge technology. They wanted simple, effective tools that would help them connect with their communities and grow their customer base without requiring a marketing degree to implement. While I was conducting market research, Maya was building relationships with developers and designers in Columbus. She'd found a small team led by Marcus Johnson, a software engineer who'd worked for several successful startups and was looking for his next project. Marcus had experience building customer management systems and understood the technical challenges of creating a platform that could handle multiple functions while remaining user-friendly. The beauty of this concept is that we're not trying to reinvent every component. Payment processing, email marketing, social media scheduling, these are all solved problems. The innovation is in how we integrate everything and customize it for local businesses. Marcus explained during our first meeting. Maya, Marcus, and I started meeting twice a week to refine the platform specifications and plan the development timeline. Marcus estimated that we could have a functional prototype within 4 months, assuming we could secure enough funding to cover development costs and initial marketing expenses.
Most challenging conversations. I had about $35,000 in savings, which was significant for someone my age, but wouldn't be nearly enough to build and launch a comprehensive platform. Maya had connections to angel investors and startup incubators, but those relationships would require us to give up equity and potentially control over the direction of the company. "There's another option," Maya said during one of our planning sessions. "My former professor, Dr. Patricia Williams, left academia 2 years ago to start her own investment fund focused on women-led tech companies. She specifically looks for businesses that solve real problems for underserved markets." Dr. Williams had built a reputation in Columbus as someone who understood both the technical and business sides of successful startups. Her investment fund was relatively small, but her portfolio companies had an impressive track record of sustainable growth and profitability. "She's not just writing checks," Maya explained. "She mentors the founders, introduces them to potential customers and partners, and helps them navigate the challenges of scaling a business. If we can get her interested, we'd have more than just funding." I agreed to set up a meeting, though the prospect of pitching to a professional investor made me nervous in a way that presenting to small business owners never had. Dr. Williams would ask the kinds of detailed financial questions and growth projections that I'd never had to prepare for my informal consulting work. Preparing for the meeting with Dr. Williams forced Maya and me to think more rigorously about every aspect of our business plan. We researched comparable companies, analyzed market size and growth potential, and developed detailed financial projections for the first 3 years of operation. The process was exhausting, but exhilarating. For the first time in my life, I was working on something that felt genuinely important, something that could have a meaningful impact beyond my own financial success. Connect Local had the potential to help hundreds of small businesses become more successful, which would strengthen local communities and create jobs in the kinds of mid-sized cities that often got overlooked by tech innovation. During this period of intense preparation and planning, I barely thought about my family or the gallery opening that had triggered this entire journey. I was working 12-hour days between my regular job and Connect Local development, coming home exhausted, but energized in a way I'd never experienced before. The contrast with Ashley's post-graduation experience couldn't have been more stark. While I was building something from nothing, working nights and weekends to turn an idea into reality, Ashley was continuing to live at home, spending her days in her basement studio, working on paintings that might or might not ever sell. Not that there was anything wrong with Ashley's approach. She was pursuing her passion and developing her artistic skills with the kind of dedication that was genuinely admirable. But the difference in how our parents viewed our respective post-graduation paths remained as pronounced as ever.
When I mentioned during a Sunday phone call that I was working on launching a tech platform, Mom's response was polite but dismissive. "That sounds very complicated, honey. Are you sure you're not taking on too much? You know how important it is to maintain work-life balance." Meanwhile, Ashley's decision to spend an entire month working on a single large painting was celebrated as evidence of her commitment to artistic excellence and her willingness to prioritize quality over productivity. The double standard was so familiar that it barely registered anymore. But it also reminded me why I was working so hard to build something undeniable, something so successful that even my parents would have to acknowledge it as a legitimate achievement worthy of respect and recognition. 3 weeks before a scheduled meeting with Dr. Williams, Maya and I had our first major breakthrough in platform development. Marcus and his team had created a working prototype that could handle basic customer management, social media scheduling, and email marketing for a single business. It was rudimentary compared to our ultimate vision, but it was functional and demonstrated the core concept that made Connect Local different from existing solutions. "This is it," Maya said, as we tested the prototype with data from one of my existing clients. "This is what we've been talking about for months, actually working." Seeing our idea translated into actual software was surreal. The interface was clean and intuitive, designed specifically for small business owners who didn't have time to learn complicated systems. A restaurant owner could update their daily specials, schedule social media posts, send targeted emails to customers who hadn't visited recently, and track the effectiveness of their marketing efforts, all from a single dashboard. "The next step is pilot testing," Marcus explained. "We need 5 or 6 businesses willing to use the platform for free in exchange for feedback and testimonials. Once we can show Dr. Williams' actual usage data and customer testimonials, we'll have a much stronger case for investment." I immediately thought of several clients who'd be perfect for pilot testing. Maria Santos owned 3 Mexican restaurants in different Ohio cities and was constantly struggling to maintain consistent marketing across all locations. Tom Bradley ran a chain of hardware stores that competed directly with big box retailers and needed better ways to highlight his superior customer service and local expertise. Both Maria and Tom had worked with me for over 2 years and trusted my judgment about marketing strategies. When I explained Connect Local and asked them if they'd be willing to test the platform, they both agreed immediately. "You've never steered me wrong before," Maria told me. "If you think this could help me manage my marketing more efficiently, I'm willing to try it." Within a week, we had 6 businesses signed up for pilot testing, representing different industries and business models. Maya created detailed tracking systems to monitor how they use the platform, what features they found most valuable, and what problems they encountered. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Business owners loved having everything in one place, and several mentioned that they were saving 4 to 5 hours a week on marketing tasks. More importantly, they were seeing better results from their marketing efforts because the integrated approach helped them maintain consistent messaging across all channels. "This is exactly what I needed," Tom Bradley told me during our first check-in call. "I can see which promotions are actually driving traffic to my stores, and I can adjust my marketing in real time instead of guessing what's working."
Armed with confidence from both the positive feedback we'd received on our pilot test and the customer testimonials that convinced Maya and I that we really were onto something, Maya and I felt confident about our upcoming meeting with Dr. Williams. We'd proven that Connect Local solved real problems for actual small businesses, and we had a clear plan for scaling the platform to serve hundreds or thousands of clients across the Midwest. The night before our meeting with Dr. Williams, I called my parents to check in, as I did most Sunday evenings. The conversation followed its familiar pattern: polite questions about my job and living situation, followed by detailed updates about Ashley's latest artistic projects and upcoming gallery submissions. "Ashley just finished the most beautiful series of landscapes," Mom told me. "The gallery owner in Columbus thinks they could be featured in a group show next spring. Your father and I are so proud of how dedicated she is to her craft." "That's wonderful," I said, and I meant it. I genuinely wanted Ashley to be successful,
even though I was frustrated by the disparity in how our achievements were perceived and supported. What about you, honey? How's your little marketing business going? The dismissive phrasing stung, especially given that my little marketing business was generating more revenue than many traditional small businesses, but I kept my response neutral. It's going well. Actually, I'm launching a new platform this year that could help a lot of local businesses become more successful. That's nice, dear. Just make sure you're not neglecting your real job. You know how competitive the marketing field is. After we hung up, I sat in my apartment thinking about how different that conversation would be in 6 months if Connect Local succeeded the way Maya and I believed it could. Instead of polite tolerance for my little marketing business, my parents might actually ask detailed questions about my work and express genuine pride in my accomplishments. But success wasn't guaranteed. Building a tech platform and scaling it to serve hundreds or thousands of clients would require skills, resources, and connections that I was only beginning to develop. The meeting with Dr. Williams was scheduled for the following Thursday at her office in downtown Columbus. Maya and I had rehearsed our presentation dozens of times, refined our financial projections, and prepared answers for every question we could anticipate. Walking into Dr. Williams' office building that Thursday morning, I felt more nervous than I had since my college job interviews. But I also felt more prepared and confident than I'd ever felt before. We had a solid business plan, proven market demand, and a functional prototype that solved real problems for actual customers. Dr. Patricia Williams was exactly what I'd expected from Maya's description: sharp, direct, and immediately focused on the substance of our proposal rather than small talk or pleasantries. Her walls were covered with framed articles about her portfolio companies, and her desk was organized with the kind of precision that suggested someone who valued efficiency and results above everything else. Tell me why Connect Local will succeed when so many other small business platforms have failed, she said within 5 minutes of our arrival, cutting straight to the heart of our business proposition. Maya and I had anticipated this question, but hearing it from someone with Dr. Williams' experience and expertise made it feel more significant. This wasn't just about convincing her to invest money in our idea, but about proving that we understood the market well enough to build something genuinely valuable and sustainable. Because we're not trying to serve all small businesses. We're specifically focused on local businesses in mid-sized cities, companies that need to compete with national chains but don't have the resources for sophisticated marketing departments. Our clients aren't looking for cutting-edge innovation. They want reliable tools that help them do what they already do, just more effectively. Dr. Williams nodded, scrolling through the customer testimonials and usage statistics we'd compiled from our pilot testing phase. "Your market research is solid," she said, after reviewing our materials for several minutes. "But market research doesn't guarantee execution. Walk me through your plan for scaling from 6 pilot clients to 600 paying customers." The next hour was the most intense business conversation I'd ever participated in. Dr. Williams asked detailed questions about customer acquisition costs, employee hiring plans, competitive analysis, and financial projections that stretched 5 years into the future. Maya and I tag-teamed the responses, drawing on her technical expertise and my practical experience working with small businesses. By the end of the meeting, I felt like I'd been through a graduate-level course in business strategy and startup management. Dr. Williams had identified several weaknesses in our plan and suggested improvements that would make Connect Local more competitive and profitable. "I'm interested," she said as Maya and I packed up our materials, "but I want to see 3 months of data from your pilot program before making a final decision. Prove that your customers will actually pay for this platform once the free trial period ends, and show me that you can acquire new clients without spending more on marketing than you generate in revenue." Maya and I left the meeting energized and slightly overwhelmed. Dr. Williams hadn't committed to investing, but she'd given us a clear roadmap to earning her support. More importantly, she'd treated us as serious entrepreneurs with a legitimate business proposition, something my family had never done despite my years of successful consulting work.
Everything. Whether Connect Local could become a sustainable business, whether Maya and I could transition from employees to entrepreneurs, and whether I could build something impressive enough to change how my family saw me and my achievements. Walking back to Maya's car after the meeting, I realized that I was no longer the invisible daughter who arranged chairs at Ashley's gallery openings. I was someone with a real plan for building something meaningful, someone who had earned the attention and respect of a successful investor, someone who might actually be able to prove my parents wrong about which daughter was more likely to achieve lasting success. The 3 months following our meeting with Dr. Patricia Williams became the most challenging period of my life up to that point. Not because the work was difficult, but because I was essentially living 2 completely different lives. During the day, I maintained my responsibilities at the Cincinnati marketing firm, showing up on time and completing my assignments with the same reliability I'd always demonstrated. But every evening, weekend, and spare moment was devoted to Connect Local, transforming our prototype into a viable business that could survive Dr. Williams' scrutiny. The pilot testing phase revealed problems we hadn't anticipated during development. Maria Santos, who owned the 3 Mexican restaurants, loved the customer management features, but struggled with the social media scheduling component because her restaurants had different peak hours and customer demographics. Tom Bradley's hardware stores needed inventory integration that our initial prototype hadn't included, and his employees found some of the interface elements confusing during their first week of training. Marcus Johnson and his development team worked overtime to address these issues, but each modification required careful testing to ensure that fixes for one client didn't create problems for others. Maya coordinated the feedback collection and feature requests, spending hours on phone calls with pilot clients to understand exactly what they needed and why certain aspects of the platform weren't meeting their expectations. Meanwhile, I was trying to maintain relationships with my existing consulting clients while gradually transitioning them toward the Connect Local platform. This required delicate conversations about changing our working relationship and convincing business owners who were comfortable with my personalized service to trust a more automated system. "I appreciate what you're trying to build," one restaurant owner told me during a particularly difficult transition meeting, "but I've been working with you personally for 2 years. How do I know this new platform will give me the same level of attention and results?" These concerns were completely valid, and addressing them required me to develop skills I'd never needed as an independent consultant. Instead of simply doing the marketing work myself, I had to train clients to use the platform effectively and convince them that automated systems could deliver better results than manual processes. The learning curve was steep for everyone involved. Several pilot clients needed multiple training sessions before they felt comfortable navigating the platform independently, and we discovered that different industries required different approaches to customer communication and marketing automation. Dr. Williams had been clear that she wanted to see not just customer satisfaction, but actual business results that could be attributed to Connect Local usage. This meant implementing tracking systems that could measure increases in customer engagement, sales conversion rates, and overall marketing effectiveness for each pilot client. Maya spent weeks developing analytics dashboards that would provide the kind of data Dr. Williams expected to see. We needed to prove that restaurants using Connect Local were attracting more customers, that retail stores were increasing their average transaction values, and that service businesses were improving their client retention rates. The data collection process was more complex than either Maya or I had anticipated. Small business owners typically don't have sophisticated systems for tracking marketing effectiveness.
So we had to help them establish baseline measurements before they could accurately assess Connect Local's impact on their operations. Tom Bradley's hardware stores provided our most compelling success story during the pilot testing phase. Within 6 weeks of implementing Connect Local, his 3 locations had increased their email subscriber base by 40% and were seeing measurably higher foot traffic during promoted sales events. More importantly, Tom's employees reported that managing marketing tasks was no longer consuming hours of their time each week. Before Connect Local, I was spending Sunday evenings writing social media posts for the entire week. Now I can schedule a month's worth of content in about 2 hours, and the system automatically adjusts the timing based on when our customers are most likely to see and respond to the posts. Maria Santos's restaurants showed similar improvements, particularly in customer retention and repeat visit frequency. The platform's automated email campaigns were bringing back customers who hadn't visited in several months, and her staff was spending less time on administrative tasks related to marketing and customer communication. However, not every pilot client experienced dramatic improvements, and a few struggled with aspects of the platform that worked well for others. One boutique clothing store found the email marketing features too generic for their highly personalized customer service approach, and a local accounting firm discovered that our social media scheduling didn't align with the professional tone they needed to maintain in their communications. These mixed results were frustrating, but they also provided valuable insights about market segmentation and feature customization that would be crucial for scaling Connect Local beyond the pilot phase. Maya and I realized that we needed to develop different versions of the platform optimized for different industry categories, rather than trying to create a one-size-fits-all solution. The revision process required additional development work that pushed our timeline back by several weeks and increased our expenses beyond what I had originally budgeted for marketing and customer acquisition once we launched commercially. During this period of intense focus on Connect Local development, my relationship with my family became increasingly strained, though they didn't seem to notice the change. Sunday phone calls with my parents became perfunctory check-ins where I provided minimal updates about my life while listening to detailed reports about Ashley's artistic progress and upcoming exhibitions. Ashley had been accepted to a summer residency program in Vermont, an opportunity that would provide her with studio space, materials, and mentorship from established artists for 3 months. The program fee was $8,000, not including travel and living expenses, and my parents were covering all costs without question. "We're so excited for Ashley," Mom told me during one of our weekly calls. "This residency could really launch her career. The artists who run the program have connections with galleries in New York and Boston, and several previous residents have gone on to have major exhibitions." Meanwhile, when I mentioned that I was working on launching a comprehensive business platform that could serve hundreds of small businesses across multiple states, Dad's response was cautious and discouraging. "That sounds very ambitious, Jess. Are you sure you're not overextending yourself? It might be better to focus on building your resume at established companies before trying to start your own business." The contrast in their reactions was so pronounced that I started avoiding detailed conversations about Connect Local entirely. There was no point in trying to share my excitement about pilot test results or development milestones with people who viewed my entrepreneurial efforts as risky distractions from conventional career advancement. Maya noticed that I was becoming increasingly isolated from my family and urged me to maintain those relationships despite the frustrations I was experiencing. "I know it's hard when they don't understand what you're building," Maya said during one of our late-night planning sessions. "But you're going to want them to be part of celebrating your success when Connect Local takes off. Don't let their current blindness damage those relationships permanently." Her advice was wise, but following it required emotional energy I didn't have during the intensive pilot testing phase. Every conversation with my parents reminded me of how differently they treated Ashley's artistic pursuits compared to my business development efforts. And those reminders were distracting when I needed to focus entirely on proving Connect Local's viability. 6 weeks into the pilot testing period, we received our first major setback. One of our pilot clients, a family-owned restaurant that had been struggling financially even before implementing Connect Local, decided to close permanently due to rising rent costs and declining customer traffic in their neighborhood. The closure wasn't related to our platform, but it eliminated one of our test cases and reduced the amount of usage data we could present to Dr. Williams. More concerning was the possibility that other pilot clients might also be facing financial pressures that could affect their ability to continue using Connect Local once the free trial period ended. This incident forced Maya and me to confront a fundamental challenge in our business model. Small businesses, particularly restaurants and retail stores, operate on thin profit margins and face constant threats to their survival. Building a platform that served this market meant accepting that some percentage of our clients would inevitably fail for reasons completely unrelated to our service quality or effectiveness. We need to factor client turnover into our financial projections, Maya pointed out during a strategy session following the restaurant closure. Dr. Williams will want to see that we understand the realities of our target market and have planned accordingly. The client turnover issue led to broader questions about pricing strategy and customer acquisition costs. If we expected to lose 10 to 15% of our clients annually due to business failures, we needed to price our service high enough to maintain profitability despite that churn rate. But higher prices might make Connect Local less accessible to the small businesses we were trying to serve. Marcus suggested a tiered pricing model that would allow smaller businesses to access basic features at a lower cost while charging premium prices for advanced analytics and customization options. This approach would make the platform accessible to a broader range of clients while generating higher revenue from businesses that needed more sophisticated functionality. Developing the tiered pricing model required additional market research and financial analysis. Maya and I spent weeks surveying small business owners about their marketing budgets and software expenses, trying to identify price points that would be affordable for our target market while generating sufficient revenue to sustain platform development and customer support. The research revealed that most small businesses were spending between $50 and $200 monthly on various marketing tools and services, but many were dissatisfied with the results they were getting for those expenditures. Connect Local could potentially replace 3 or 4 separate services while delivering better results, which justified pricing in the upper end of that range for businesses that needed comprehensive functionality. However, we also discovered that many small businesses had been burned by previous experiences with marketing software that promised more than it delivered. Building trust and demonstrating value would be crucial for customer acquisition, particularly during the early stages when we didn't have extensive testimonials and case studies to reference. 2 months into the pilot testing period, Tom Bradley's hardware stores provided exactly the kind of success story we needed to demonstrate Connect Local's effectiveness. His 3 locations had increased their average monthly revenue by 12%, primarily through improved customer retention and more effective promotional campaigns. The difference is integration, Tom explained when Maya and I interviewed him for a case study. Before Connect Local, I was sending emails to customers who hadn't been to my stores recently, but I had no way of knowing whether those emails were actually bringing people back. Now I can see exactly which promotions are working and adjust my marketing in real time. Tom's success story became the centerpiece of our presentation to Dr. Williams, demonstrating that Connect Local could deliver measurable business results for clients who implemented it effectively. But we also needed to address the concerns raised by clients who had struggled with certain aspects of the platform. The boutique clothing store that found our email marketing too generic had worked with us to develop more personalized templates and automation sequences. While this required additional setup time, the customized approach had improved their customer engagement rates significantly and provided a model for serving other businesses with similar needs. Maya documented these customization processes and developed training materials that would help future clients implement similar personalization strategies without requiring extensive one-on-one support from our team. This scalable approach to customer success would be crucial for growing beyond the pilot phase without hiring large numbers of support staff. As we approach the end of the 3-month evaluation period Dr. Williams had requested, Maya and I were working 16-hour days to compile usage statistics, customer testimonials, and financial projections that would support our request for investment. The data was largely positive, but presenting it effectively required skills neither of us had developed through our previous work experience. Dr. Williams had made it clear that she expected to see not just current performance metrics, but realistic projections for customer acquisition, revenue growth, and profitability over the following 3 years. These projections needed to be based on actual market research and competitive analysis rather than optimistic assumptions about platform adoption rates. Maya spent weeks researching comparable companies and industry trends, trying to identify benchmarks we could use to validate our growth projections. The analysis revealed that successful small business software companies typically achieve profitability within 18 to 24 months of launch, assuming they could maintain customer acquisition costs below 30% of annual customer value. Our pilot testing data suggested that Connect Local could achieve those benchmarks, but only if we could successfully transition from serving 6 clients to serving 600 without proportional increases in development and support costs. This would require building scalable systems for customer onboarding, training, and technical support that could handle rapid growth without compromising service quality. The scalability challenge led to discussions about hiring additional team members and potentially relocating to Columbus to be closer to the tech ecosystem Maya had been cultivating there. Both decisions would require significant financial investment before we had confirmed revenue streams, adding another layer of risk to the venture. Marcus had been working essentially as a contractor during the pilot testing phase, but scaling Connect Local would require him to commit to the project full-time, which meant offering him equity compensation and guaranteed salary that we couldn't afford without external investment. Similarly, Maya would need to leave her job in Columbus to focus entirely on business development and customer success, eliminating her steady income during the critical early growth period. These staffing decisions couldn't be delayed much longer. Dr. Williams had scheduled our follow-up meeting for the week after the pilot testing period ended, and she would expect to see detailed plans for team expansion and operational scaling. More importantly, she would want to understand how Maya and I plan to transition from part-time entrepreneurs to full-time business owners. The transition question was particularly challenging for me because leaving my Cincinnati marketing job would eliminate the financial security I'd relied on throughout the Connect Local development process. My savings account, which had contained $35,000 6 months ago, was down to less than $8,000 after covering development costs and pilot testing expenses. Maya was in a similar situation, having spent most of her savings on business plan development and market research. Neither of us could afford to work without income for more than a few months, which meant that securing Dr. Williams' investment wasn't just important for Connect Local's growth potential, but essential for our personal financial survival. The pressure of the upcoming meeting with Dr. Williams affected every aspect of my life during the final weeks of pilot testing. I was having trouble sleeping, struggling to maintain focus at my day job, and becoming increasingly anxious about the possibility that our 3 months of intensive work might not result in the investment we needed to move forward. My relationship with my family deteriorated further during this period, partly because I was too stressed and busy to maintain regular communication, but also because their continued dismissal of my entrepreneurial efforts felt more painful when the stakes were so high. During one particularly difficult conversation, Dad suggested that I should consider the Connect Local project a valuable learning experience, but return my focus to conventional career advancement rather than continuing to pursue risky ventures that might not pan out. "You're a smart girl with good marketing skills," he said. "You could probably get a management position at a larger firm if you focused on building your professional reputation instead of trying to start your own company." Meanwhile, Ashley's summer residency program in Vermont was being celebrated as a crucial step in her artistic development, with regular family discussions about the connections she was making and the techniques she was learning from established artists. The contrast in how my parents viewed our respective career development efforts couldn't have been more stark, and it reminded me why proving them wrong had become such an important motivation for Connect Local's success. I wasn't just trying to build a profitable business, but to demonstrate that I deserved the same level of family support and recognition that Ashley had always received. 2 weeks before our scheduled meeting with Dr. Williams, Maya and I received validation that made all the stress and financial investment feel worthwhile. Tom Bradley's hardware stores had experienced their best sales month in over 2 years, with increases that could be directly attributed to marketing campaigns managed through Connect Local. More significantly, Tom had started recommending Connect Local to other business owners in his network, leading to inquiries from potential clients who wanted to implement similar marketing automation systems. These organic referrals suggested that satisfied customers would become advocates for the platform, reducing our customer acquisition costs and providing credibility that paid advertising couldn't match. This is exactly what Dr. Williams will want to see, Maya said as we reviewed the referral data and customer testimonials we'd collected over the 3-month testing period. We're not just retaining clients, we're turning them into promoters who are generating new business for us. The combination of measurable business results, customer satisfaction scores, and organic growth potential gave us confidence that Connect Local
represented a genuine market opportunity rather than an interesting concept that might struggle to find paying customers. But confidence wasn't the same as certainty, and our meeting with Dr. Williams would determine whether we could access the resources needed to capitalize on that opportunity. As the evaluation period drew to a close, I found myself reflecting on how much had changed since Ashley's gallery opening 6 months earlier. The invisible daughter who had arranged chairs and stayed out of the way had developed into someone who could build a technology platform, manage a team of contractors, and compile the kind of business data that impressed professional investors. But the transformation wasn't complete yet. Proving my parents wrong would require more than positive pilot testing results and encouraging meetings with potential investors. It would require building Connect Local into the kind of success that couldn't be dismissed as a hobby or side project. The kind of achievement that would force my family to acknowledge me as someone with vision and capability, rather than just reliability and work ethic. The meeting with Dr. Williams represented our opportunity to secure the resources and mentorship that could make that level of success possible. But it also represented the moment when Maya and I would learn whether our 3 months of intensive preparation had been sufficient to convince a seasoned investor that Connect Local deserved her support and Connect Local deserved to become more than just an ambitious experiment. My college years at Ohio State became a masterclass in independence that I never realized I was taking. While Ashley's art school experience was carefully orchestrated by our parents, with regular care packages and financial support flowing seamlessly to Cleveland, I was building something different in Columbus, something that would eventually reshape not just my future, but how my entire family understood success and worth. The social media business I had started during sophomore year was generating enough income to cover all my expenses by junior year, but I was hungry for something bigger. Working with local restaurants and small retail shops, I kept hearing the same complaints about their struggles to compete with big chains and online retailers. They had loyal customers, but couldn't figure out how to reach new ones or keep existing customers coming back consistently. That's when I met Dr. Sarah Chen during a marketing seminar. Dr. Chen had left her corporate consulting job to teach entrepreneurship, and she saw potential in my small business focus that I hadn't recognized myself. During office hours one afternoon, she asked me a question that changed everything. Jessica, you're solving individual problems for each client, but what if you could solve the same problem for thousands of businesses simultaneously? What would that look like? The question stuck with me for weeks. I started sketching ideas for a comprehensive platform that could handle social media management, customer communications, and local advertising in one integrated system. The concept felt ambitious. Maybe too ambitious for a college student working out of her dorm room, but Dr. Chen encouraged me to develop it further. The best time to take big risks is when you have nothing to lose, she told me. You're already supporting yourself, you understand your market, and you have clients who trust your judgment. Build something they can't ignore.
I spent the summer before senior year developing a prototype with help from computer science students who needed portfolio projects. By fall semester, I had a working platform that 3 local businesses were testing. The results were impressive enough that Dr. Chen suggested I enter the university's business plan competition. The competition required detailed financial projections, market analysis, and growth strategies that forced me to think about my idea as a scalable business rather than an expanded consulting service. Preparing for the presentation taught me more about entrepreneurship than any class I'd taken. When I called home to tell my parents about making the competition finals, Dad's response was predictably cautious. "That sounds like a lot of work for something that might not go anywhere. Maybe you should focus on finding a good job after graduation instead of getting distracted by these side projects." The same week, Ashley called to share news about a painting that had been selected for a student exhibition, and my parents spent 20 minutes discussing the honor and its implications for her artistic career. The contrast was so familiar, it barely registered anymore. I won second place in the competition, earning $5,000 in seed funding and connections to local investors who worked with student entrepreneurs. More importantly, the validation from business professors and successful entrepreneurs who judged the competition gave me confidence that my platform addressed real market needs. Senior year became a balancing act between completing my degree requirements and building what I was calling Local Connect into a viable business. I was working with 12 clients and had hired 2 other students to help with customer support and content creation. The platform was generating $1,500 monthly in profit, money I was reinvesting in development and marketing. During spring break, while Ashley was on a family-funded trip to Europe for artistic inspiration, I drove across Ohio visiting potential clients and conducting market research. I discovered that small businesses in mid-sized cities faced even greater challenges than those in Columbus, often lacking access to affordable marketing services or technical support. The research convinced me that Local Connect could serve a much larger market than I had initially envisioned. Small towns across the Midwest were full of family-owned businesses struggling to compete with national chains, and most had never heard of the marketing automation tools that could level the playing field. When I shared these insights with Dr. Chen, she introduced me to Marcus Rivera, a recent graduate who had started a successful consulting firm focused on small business technology adoption. Marcus understood the market opportunity I was describing and offered to become an advisor and potential investor. "What you're building could transform how small businesses operate," Marcus told me during our first meeting, "but you'll need more capital and a stronger technical team to scale it effectively. Are you prepared to commit to this full-time after graduation?" The question forced me to confront a decision I'd been avoiding. Taking Local Connect from a profitable side business to a scalable company would require resources and commitment that went beyond anything I had attempted before. It also meant giving up the security of traditional employment to pursue something uncertain but potentially transformational.
Transformative. I graduated summa cum laude with job offers from 3 marketing firms, including one in Chicago that would have doubled my current income immediately. My parents were thrilled about the job opportunities and couldn't understand why I was hesitating to accept them. "You've worked so hard to get these offers," Mom said during our graduation celebration dinner. "Why would you risk that security on an unproven business idea? You can always work on your computer thing as a hobby after you establish your career." Ashley, meanwhile, was moving back home with full family support to pursue her art while applying to graduate programs. Her post-graduation plan included a converted basement studio, monthly allowance, and complete freedom to focus on her creative development without financial pressure. The double standard was so pronounced that even Ashley seemed to notice it. During a rare private conversation at the graduation party, she asked why our parents treated our career choices so differently. "I mean, you're actually making money from your business already," Ashley observed. "That seems more practical than what I'm doing with art. But they act like you're the one taking the bigger risk." Her comment helped crystallize something I'd been struggling to articulate. My parents' definition of success was so narrow and traditional that they couldn't recognize entrepreneurship as a legitimate career path, even when it was generating measurable results. Instead of accepting any of the job offers, I used my graduation money and savings to rent a small office space in Columbus and hired Marcus as my business partner. We rebranded Local Connect as Connect Local and developed a comprehensive business plan for serving small businesses across the Midwest. The decision created the first real conflict I'd ever had with my parents. Dad was particularly upset about what he saw as my rejection of conventional success in favor of unrealistic dreams.
"You're throwing away everything you've worked for," he said during a tense phone conversation. "These marketing firms won't hold positions open while you experiment with running your own company. You'll end up with nothing to show for all your education and hard work." Meanwhile, Ashley's decision to pursue graduate school in fine arts was celebrated as a natural progression of her artistic development, despite the significant financial investment it would require from the family. The contrast in their reactions confirmed what I'd suspected throughout college. My parents would never see my entrepreneurial ambitions as worthy of the same support and encouragement they gave Ashley's artistic pursuits. But Marcus believed in Connect Local's potential, and his confidence helped me push through the family pressure and focus on building something meaningful. We spent the summer after graduation developing partnerships with business organizations in small cities across Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. By September, Connect Local was serving 37 clients and generating enough revenue to support both Marcus and me full-time. We developed training programs that helped small business owners implement our platform effectively, and customer satisfaction scores were consistently above 90%. The success attracted attention from local media and business organizations. Columbus Business First featured Connect Local in an article about promising startups, and the Ohio Small Business Association invited us to present at their annual conference. When I shared the media coverage with my parents, their response was polite, but noticeably less enthusiastic than their reactions to Ashley's artistic achievements. Even concrete evidence of business success couldn't compete with their perception that art was more prestigious than entrepreneurship. But the external validation was meaningful in ways family approval had never been. Small business owners understood the value Connect Local provided because they experienced it directly through increased customer engagement and revenue growth. Industry peers recognized the innovation and market understanding required to build something that actually solved real problems. 6 months after launching Connect Local full-time, we received our first acquisition inquiry from a regional software company. The offer wasn't large enough to be compelling, but it confirmed that we'd built something valuable that other businesses wanted to own or partner with. Marcus and I decided to continue growing independently rather than selling, but the inquiry process forced us to think more strategically about Connect Local's long-term potential and market position. A year after graduation, Connect Local was serving 86 clients across 5 states and had attracted the attention of venture capital firms interested in small business software platforms. We were generating monthly recurring revenue of $28,000 and employing 6 people in our Columbus office. The growth trajectory was impressive by any objective measure, but more importantly, we were seeing meaningful impact on the communities we served. Small businesses using Connect Local were reporting average revenue increases of 15% and customer retention improvements that allowed them to compete more effectively with national chains. During Ashley's next gallery opening, something fundamental had shifted in how other people viewed my accomplishments compared to hers. Several family friends asked detailed questions about Connect Local's growth and impact, while treating Ashley's artistic progress as pleasant but not particularly significant. "Jessica has built something remarkable," Tom Bradley told my parents while I was arranging refreshments in the gallery kitchen. "Her platform helped us increase our sales by 20% last quarter. You must be incredibly proud of what she's accomplished." Mom's response was characteristically understated. "Yes, Jessica has always been very hardworking and responsible. We're glad her business is going well." The dismissive tone was so familiar that I barely noticed it anymore, but Tom looked surprised by her lack of enthusiasm about Connect Local's success. Later that evening, Ashley approached me with an expression I had never seen before, something that looked like genuine admiration mixed with curiosity. "Jess, people keep talking about your company like it's this big deal. Is it really helping businesses make more money?" For the first time in our lives, Ashley seemed interested in understanding what I had built, rather than simply waiting for her turn to discuss her own achievements. Connect Local helps small businesses connect with their customers more effectively. We've automated a lot of marketing tasks that used to take hours every week, and we've helped businesses reach new customers they couldn't find before. Ashley nodded thoughtfully. "That actually sounds really important. Like, more important than selling paintings to people who already have enough money to buy art." Her observation surprised me because it suggested she was beginning to question the relative value of our respective career choices in ways our parents never had. 2 years after launching Connect Local, Marcus and I received a serious acquisition offer from a Fortune 500 company that wanted to integrate our platform into their small business services portfolio. The offer was substantial enough to provide financial security while allowing us to accelerate Connect Local's growth through access to enterprise resources and distribution channels. After careful consideration, we decided to accept the acquisition. The financial outcome exceeded anything I'd imagined when I started working on social media management during college, but more importantly, the acquisition positioned Connect Local to help thousands of additional small businesses over the following years. When the acquisition announcement appeared in TechCrunch and other industry publications, I finally received the kind of family recognition I'd been seeking unconsciously throughout college and beyond. Jessica, I had no idea your company was this significant, Dad said during our first conversation after the news broke. The article makes it sound like you built something that could help businesses across the entire country. For the first time in my life, my parents seemed genuinely impressed by my professional achievements, rather than simply polite about my career choices. But the recognition felt different than I had expected. After years of building Connect Local without family support or understanding, their belated appreciation seemed less important than the validation I'd received from clients, employees, and industry peers who had understood the value of what we were building. I'd started this journey partly to prove that I deserved the same level of family support Ashley had always received. But somewhere along the way, I had discovered that the most meaningful recognition came from creating something valuable that helped other people succeed, regardless of whether my parents ever acknowledged its significance. Connect Local's success belonged to me, Marcus, our team, and the hundreds of small businesses that had grown stronger through our platform. My parents' approval, while finally forthcoming, wasn't necessary for me to know that I built something meaningful and worthwhile. The invisible daughter who had arranged chairs while staying out of Ashley's spotlight had become an entrepreneur whose company was acquired by a Fortune 500 corporation for its innovative approach to small business success. That transformation was complete regardless of family recognition, though I was grateful they could finally see what I'd accomplished. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.